Thanks for tuning in to the Real ResQ Podcast, part of the Vertical Helicast Network at verticalhelicast.com. We are alongside the Hangar Z Podcast, the Helicopter Podcast, Vertical MRO Podcast, and the Valor Flight Crew Podcast. This is all part of Vertical Magazine's podcast network. Go check it out when you get a chance. These episodes are awesome. Now a shout out to our sponsors, Axness. Their mission, wireless intercom. Get in touch with them at axness.com. Blue Drop Training and Simulation. They have over 35 years of training and simulation experience. Check them out at bluedropts.com. Onboard Systems, Hoist and Winch. When lives are on the line, proven performance means everything. Get in touch with them at hoist-winch.onboardsystems.com. Now, some fun facts about our upcoming guest. He went to college to pursue a degree in computer programming, but when it got too boring, he joined the Army. Smart move. As a hobby, he's an amateur level gunsmith and competitive shooter. He is also a big movie buff, and his favorite movie is Interstellar. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome critical care flight paramedic, Mr. Mike Martin. My name is Jason Quinn. I am United States Coast Guard Rescue Swimmer number 500. These are my rescues and rescues from those of us that put our lives on the line every day so others may live. This is the Real ResQ Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Real ResQ Podcast. Today, I've got a guest with us. He is a critical care flight medic for the Utah National Guard. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Mike Martin. What's up, dude?
Hey, Quinn. Nice to talk to you.
Dude, good
awesome
to talk
to
to you.
Here.
Oh, dude, I'm psyched to have you on right now. And this is not the only time I'm going to have you on. We have an appointment coming up as well.
Yeah, going to Verticon.
I know, I'm so excited. And I don't want to tell anybody quite what that is yet, but Verticon we can tell them, but I don't want to tell them why we're going to be recording again. We'll wait till later until that. It's exciting.
Sounds good.
Nice. I really, dude, you and I are going to have a conversation here, and we have some stories to talk about. You have some experience, dude. I'm stoked. It's going to be, it's going to be great.
Yeah, just a little bit here and there. It's been a good ride.
A little bit here and there. Dude, I have like 8 stories to talk about. I'm so excited. Things here and there. Well, I'll tell you what, man. I usually go right into your background and how you get into it, but I'm going to switch it today. Today, I want to start with what would be your third deployment in the Utah National Guard, but under your first deployment as a MEDEVAC service. Yeah?
Yes. Yeah, in the MEDEVAC,
right.
Yes.
There's a reason I want to start with this one, and that's because you earned yourself an air medal while you were over there. So I'm going to read this, and we're going to get right into it. Cool?
Sounds good.
And here's what this says. Narrative to accompany the award of the Air Medal to Sergeant Michael S. Martin. Sergeant Michael S. Martin, United States Army, distinguished himself by exceptional meritorious conduct in the performance of service to the United States as a flight medic for Gulf Company 2135, General Support Aviation Battalion, Task Force, Warhawk, Forward Operating Base Delaram, from 20 January 2014 to 1 August 2014, in support of Operation Enduring Freedom. Sergeant Martin served as a flight medic, demonstrating selfless service by flying numerous missions in the UH-60 Blackhawk with the intent to save lives. These actions involved night missions under 0% illumination, challenging terrain, and multiple landings into unsecure areas to pick up severely injured and critical patients. His actions allowed him for safe completion of over 90 combat hours and 20 medical evacuations, MEDEVAC, missions. Sergeant Martin's exceptional sacrifice led to the success completion of 100% of assigned missions at the FOB Delaram. On one distinct occasion, Sergeant Martin acted as a lead medic during the mission that entailed 4 Cat A patients in critical condition. As the sole medic on his aircraft, Sergeant Martin began care on 2 of the urgently wounded soldiers. His dedication to training and skill proficiency led him to display an exceptional level of competence and critical thinking during this mission. Sergeant Martin was able to perform advanced procedures while balancing time and resources to thoroughly care for his patients. He did so while under immense stress in far from optimal conditions. Sergeant Martin took personal responsibility for the lives of other soldiers, and his actions directly led to the survival of both patients and overall success of the mission. Sergeant Martin worked continuously as the platoon's medical trainer to ensure that the first platoon's flight medics and crew chiefs were fully mission capable and adequately prepared for any medical emergency they would face while transporting critical patients. He accomplished this with minimal assets on the smallest fob from which Gulf Company operated while in a retrograde environment. His motivation and dedication to provide the best medical care is a direct reflection of his passion for the MEDEVAC mission and his wide range of medical skills and knowledge. His actions are in keeping with the finest traditions of military service and reflect distinct credit upon himself, Gulf Company 2 135th, General Support Aviation Battalion, Task Force Warhawk, Task Force Raptor, Regional Command West, and the United States Army. Bro, that is awesome, dude. What a great write-up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, before even jumping into it, I was very fortunate to have some great NCOs. And he kind of was this one that specifically wrote this. I've kind of learned a lot from how I write awards for my soldiers now, and just the importance of, hey, if it's a big deal to that soldier, it should be a big deal to you. And man, I was just so fortunate to have his kind of leadership guidance, and also just to have what a great write up for that first rescue I did in a combat zone.
Which is why I started this right off like that, because you just said that. It was your very first rescue.
Yes.
What? Bro. So I have not been in a combat scenario. I've never been shot at. My world is Coast Guard, helping mariners and people that aren't shooting at me. My hat's off to all you guys that go in there and do that CSAR stuff. So mad props.
Oh, I appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
It's crazy because Delaram was at the time not the smallest base, because they had little fire bases and stuff out there that weren't really even fobs, but that was the smallest fob at the time. And we actually, halfway through our deployment, ended up closing up shop and shutting that down. And that was strategically positioned at kind of the base of the Devil's Knee in Afghanistan, kind of in that Nimroz province. So it was a busy area. Even as we were shutting stuff down and as things kind of were calming down in the region, that was still a hot area, very busy.
Wow. Dang, man. Well, I'll tell you what, dude, if you don't mind, run us through, what was the call?
So it was actually the Marine Corps was focusing on joint training with the ANA, and the ANA had actually established an EOD team. And the EOD team was actually doing pretty well. They were pretty successful in kind of their counter IED efforts. Basically, anytime they'd find some bombs and stuff like that, they'd call in the Afghani nationals and say, hey, when we leave, this will be kind of this transition. You guys can start actually dealing with these kind of threats and sophisticated diffusing bomb techniques and all that fun stuff. And unfortunately, for this scenario, there was I think there was either 5 or 6 ANA EOD technicians working this bomb that they considered a pretty simplistic one. So they were all kind of gathered around it. And when that went off, we had 4 critically injured patients right off the bat. So we got the call for it. The actual pickup for it was pretty much right outside base. So we were just picking up and then going and repositioning to start picking up the ANA. With our base, with just how small we were.
ANA? What is that?
Oh, yeah. Afghani National Army.
Okay. I knew that, but I'm not totally sure. So, yeah. Acronyms are great, but I don't know the Army acronyms too well. So. And
I'm still really bad about it, too. So if I throw another acronym at me, just let me know.
That's for everybody else listening as well. Okay?
Yeah, that's fair. Touche. But the other interesting thing too is with how small our fob was, we didn't have too many medics, and I was actually the only paramedic on the fob. Great medics, super competent dudes, but this was actually kind of early in the transition because the Army traditionally they didn't have paramedics for their flight medics. This was a new
Oh,
program that was congressionally mandated that, hey, you need to have that higher level of critical care training to handle these patients in aeromedical transport platforms. And that kind of changed the face of Army MEDEVAC. And I was actually very fortunate to be in one of those very first programs. I was actually the first one after the pilot program for the paramedic program for flight medics.
oh, dang,
So,
good for you.
but also I was still very junior paramedic. So I've been a medic for years, but they handed me all this new knowledge, these new tools and stuff like that. So I was still kind of getting my bearing with like the critical care mindset. And so two medics got two of the patients on Chalk 1, and I got the two worst ones on my aircraft with the crew chief on Chalk 2. And it was just, I think they were kind of just like looking at it as it went off because it was all facial trauma. It was just for airway management, it was a nightmare.
Oh my gosh, dude.
So, and also being a new paramedic, like advanced airways was still something very new to me. So I was very reluctant to start RSIing patients at that time. I've gotten a lot more comfortable with it since then, especially with a lot more civilian experience flying. But I was just doing basic airway management, pain management, suctioning out a lot of teeth and stuff in airways. And it was just, I gave myself a lot more work than I probably should have dealing with these guys for about a 20 to 30-minute flight.
Damn, man. Well, wow. Wow,
So
dude.
it was definitely jumping in all the way, getting into a combat deployment. It wasn't something simple or easy for the first flight. So yeah, definitely jumping in, getting in that combat trauma experience, and also kind of getting a good flow for the aircraft. I think when you deal with a lot of medical providers, whether you're working in a box truck or in a helicopter, you're still
Yeah.
kind of working your flow. You may have done it in like a training perspective, but once you actually start treating patients, then you realize, oh, why do I have my aid bag over here versus my advanced airway bag over here versus my oxygen? All of this is instantly getting moved right after this flight.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden it's a yard sale on the inside of the helicopter. You're like, I don't know where anything
Oh yeah.
is.
Oh yeah. Just
Yeah.
just from like going from like transitioning from like, okay, I'm doing pain meds. Okay, nope, now I'm suctioning. Okay, nope, now I'm doing my trending vitals. Like it's just bouncing around. So it was learning on the fly. I luckily had a really good crew chief with me. He had no medical experience, so he was mostly just taking my input. And I remember kind of the very beginning of that flight, I I remember in training, and they talk about like, hey, give yourself that pause, take that deep breath, kind of just absorb what's going on, and then just react without freaking out, sort of thing. And I started the flight off that way, and it was only a couple of seconds, but I remember talking to my crew chief afterwards. It's like that felt really long. That felt like a really long pause.
Yeah. Dang, man. I was actually going to ask you about that. Your crew chief, was he able to help you out? Because you had two patients in the back and both of them critical.
Yeah.
Like, so you're trying to deal with airway on two patients um, and just by
Yeah.
yourself. So,
We got really aggressive with training further into the deployment. We focused on some things we thought were important on the front end, like before we got to into the combat zone, like taking vitals and stuff like that. But that was just kind of the scratch in the surface. From there, it was like, hey, this is like how you run suctioning, or hey, like we had a couple of our guys actually starting IVs, running fluids, stuff like that. So it was, we had a great team that was very eager to help and wanted to help save lives. So like regardless of their lack of medical training, and their focus is like security of the aircraft and maintenance and stuff like that, they were all willing to help out just to make the mission go.
dude, that's so nice. That's so nice to have. I like I can relate because there were times I had like my flight mech or whatever in the Coast Guard, they wanted to help, like these bag valve masks while I'm doing compressions, and like it's just to have that extra set of hands and somebody willing to do it is awesome.
Oh yeah, even
So
when it just
your
comes to
first
something
one,
simple like CPR. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Or just hand me something. Hey, can you reach into the bag and grab me X?
Yeah,
Whatever,
if they know where everything is, you kind of, you don't have to get super technical with the medical jargon, but if they kind of know the loose terms for a lot of the equipment, that stuff helps out like a crazy amount. Yeah.
Do you remember how far of a flight it was from like in scene back to the fob?
It was about I'd say in between 20 to 30 minutes. It was a longer stick just because where we were kind of bridging the gap for the golden hour, which for most people, the golden hour was kind of that military standard that was pushed out saying, hey, when someone gets hurt, they need to be in either surgery or at that next level of care within an hour. That was kind of how that we're helping trend survivability rates and stuff like that. So the only reason our base actually existed at the time was to bridge that gap because it was such a long distance from like Shindad to Bastion or Leatherneck, as it was known on more popularly. So yeah, it was a good 30-minute flight to get to Bastion, which was co-located with Leatherneck, and then we actually handed off our patients to British providers, and then they got to work from there. But
dang, man, I'm just, and the reason I'm asking that is like I'm thinking about you, two critically like patients, critically ill.
Yeah,
that's what I'll call them. And you're running, throwing drugs, advanced airway, etc., etc. That's gnarly.
The more experienced you become, like 30 minutes is a lot of time. You can get a lot of interventions done, but in that scenario, it went by pretty fast. It felt like 5 minutes.
Wow.
It really did.
Damn.
It wasn't until like the adrenaline kind of wears off afterwards, and then you're like, oh no, that was a longer flight. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Hey, you know what? Well done to you and the entire crew. I mean, you saved them. That's what it said in the air medal. Like, well deserved. Good job, dude.
No, I appreciate it. And like I said, that just the way that you write those awards, it makes a huge difference too. Because we had tons of calls on that deployment. Some of them were a lot worse. Some of them were a lot better. But that was the first one, and man, it was so gratifying to kind of like get the work done, help people out, and just the whole team succeed.
Yeah, bro, amazing. Well done, Mike. You and the entire crew. Holy cow. And that's how we're starting this podcast off.
Yeah, I like it.
Holy cow. Well, all right. So give us a little background, like where you're from and what brought you into joining the National Guard? We're going to divert real quick to thank our sponsors.
Axnis. The Axnis PNG wireless ICS system delivers cutting-edge wireless ICS technology to any aircraft. As a fully integrated system or as a carry-on, carry-off mobile base station, the PNG wireless system is the right solution for any mission.
So, born and raised in Utah. My dad was in the Navy, and so I just, out of spite, had to transition into something different, do the Army. He gave me some hard times at the beginning, but great. I think he's accepted it. But no, I joined the Army. Yeah, no, I think he has by now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Honestly, when I joined the Army, I thought I was going to just be this badass soldier, and that I picked my job, which was titled healthcare specialist. I had no idea even at the time that it was combat medic until I like showed up to school, and they're like, "Oh yeah, this is combat medic school." It's like, "Oh, okay, cool." Some people did not like that verbiage. They thought they were signing up for something very different, but I was excited for it. It's like, "Oh yeah, that sounds cool to me."
That's super cool.
Yes, spent some time as a ground medic, deployed as a ground medic, and then actually I was looking at still trying to be a badass. I spent a little bit of time at 19th Group here in Utah, and then this opportunity came up. They were doing tryouts for flight medics for the new MEDEVAC unit that had just formed here in Utah. I was like, even at the time, I was kind of like, that sounds cool, whatever. I mean, you get to fly. I mean, I jump out of airplanes. That's pretty cool, but
Yeah.
like no idea.
Nice.
No idea. I applied for it, went through tryouts. They do like all the interviews and stuff like that and kind of gauge where your medical knowledge is and your critical thinking at the time. And I was fortunate enough to get picked, was the second medic in the unit to actually or third. I was the third ever medic in the unit as they were just forming this brand new thing here in Utah. And as soon as I started flying, as soon as I started actually realizing like the history of dust off and medevac in the Army, I was hooked. Yeah. It was like instantly like, oh crap, this is what I wish I'd been doing from the beginning. But yeah. And then it was just back-to-back schools because I had some medical experience. I had some trauma experience, but this was when the Congress was actually pushing the critical care flight paramedic initiative. So like they were like right off the bat, hey, you got a bunch more schools to go to. Ended up in Texas for almost a year, just going through schools, getting my paramedic. And it was a very accelerated program too. And they were also kind of figuring it out because they had just done 2 pilot programs to vet the process and get it signed off. But we were the first non-pilot flight paramedic school that the Army had ever done. So there was some growing pains here and there, but it was an awesome experience. Got my paramedic out of it and then turned right around and went to Afghanistan to start using it.
Dang, man. Wow. Oh, that's one way to start out. Now, National Guard stuff, it's like 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year, or do you do more?
For most people, that's what it is, unless you're in a flight program, because then you have flight minimums, you have currency, and depending on if you have like an active state program, which Utah does, fires, hoist, search and rescue, support missions, just weird, crazy stuff that I've slung load the weirdest things for the state of Utah. So,
really?
Yeah.
Oh, no kidding.
Definitely more than 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year. I'd say before I went full time with the Utah Guard, I was flying at least once a week. And so that's on top of drill, that's on top of AT, and that's also on top of any support missions that pop up where it's traditionally first come, first serve, because usually depending on how cool the mission is, there's a bunch of people that hop on it. But it could also be something just flying the governor around or doing some type of VIP transport. It's a whole gambit.
Oh, interesting. Oh, that's cool. Were you doing something else like as I guess I'm going to call it a normal job, kind of a normal job? Is there such thing as a normal job? I'm not really sure, but I've never had one. So
honestly, I was looking at getting a civilian job at the time. Honestly, when I first got to MEDEVAC, I worked at a gun store. I was selling guns and losing my entire
awesome, dude.
And losing my entire paycheck to buying guns at the same gun store. So it was not economically a good decision. Yeah. So
and then when ammo goes on sale, game over. The whole check is gone.
Well, yeah,
we're not getting food this month, but we got a boatload of ammo.
Yeah, when you work there, when all the deals are coming out. It's not healthy for someone that's very adamant about shooting stuff.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, it was crazy because as soon as I got to MEDEVAC, just with how hooked I was like, I want to be part of this. I want to help the program grow. So I actually left my job there and became full-time with the Utah National Guard. I started off in like medical logistics, just like the supply side. And then from there transitioned to training. And then I actually transitioned full-time to flight instruction, got my additional courses done for that, and I've been teaching while flying ever since. Just hooked on it.
Dude, well done. That's freaking awesome.
Yeah,
man, cool. Well, thanks for sharing the background, man. I appreciate that. That's cool.
Oh yeah.
Let's bring us into another story. You've got 2 of them. So we're going to go a bit numerical order, right? So your air medal that you earned in your 3rd deployment, but first air medevac deployment was in 2014. I'm going to bring us to 2018, where you were written up in the Minuteman, right? Is that what it's called, the Minuteman?
Yeah, Utah does like their Utah National Guard magazine that they push out every year. It's called the Minuteman. Yeah.
Perfect. And so in that magazine, you're actually talked about twice because of like fires, and then a rescue that you did in a like a cliff area, like a canyon. So
Yeah.
let's start with this one. Let me go right into the fires. I'm going to read a little bit of this. Utah records one of the worst fire seasons. Salt Lake City. Governor Gary Herbert said that this year will go down as one of the worst wildfire seasons on record. Quote, "It's the worst fire season we've probably had in memory," said Governor Herbert. "We've had, as of last count, since August 7th, about 875 fires in our state. It's a number that's staggering." Governor Herbert explained 60% of the fires this season have been human caused. The Dollar Ridge fire is one of those man made fires. The Utah National Guard received requests by the State Emergency Operations Center to help combat some of the larger fires burning around the state. Pilots and crews with the 2nd Battalion, 211th Aviation Regiment flew Black Hawks that assisted with the wildfires burning around the state. These crews worked for 2 days in the Middle Canyon fire in Tuella County, dropping 14 buckets of water for a total of 6,468 gallons. During the Dollar Ridge fire near Strawberry Reservoir in Duchesne County, 2 Blackhawks flew for 18 days, dropping 800 buckets of water with approximately 369,600 gallons of water. On the Coal Hollow fire in Spanish Fork Canyon, Utah County, the Blackhawks flew for 5 days, dropping 251 buckets of water with approximately 109,160 gallons. High winds grounded the aircraft during the flight on the Pole Creek fire in Utah County, but the Blackhawks flew 1 day, dropping 40 buckets of water. All right, I'm going to wrap it up right there, but there's a little bit more, and really it just continues to go on talking about these fires and how much you guys supported this as the Utah National Guard. Holy smoke, man. That's amazing.
Yeah, that was a busy year for us. I'd say out of most of the fires you listed, I think I was on almost all of those. And they were
really
scattered. Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because they weren't all kicking off at the same time. It was just kind of one fire after the next. And the Dollar Ridge was actually kind of the big one. That was in August. That was the one we worked the longest. I think I probably worked 2 weeks, almost 2 weeks on that fire. And it was the third largest fire that Utah's ever had. And they were saying, just kind of looking at the statistics and stuff, it was the busiest fire season Utah's ever experienced. So
dang.
It was busy. There was a lot to do. It was crazy just because they'd give the Utah National Guard, we kind of had our own assigned sectors, and we were just trying to do as much damage to the fire in our little sectors and just drop as many buckets before we'd call it a day, just to head back out the next day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you guys have flight time minimums? Like when I was in the Coast Guard, we could fly for 6 hours and then we had to be done, like 6 hours of flight time. You could push it just past that if you were airborne after your, like if you took off at 5 hours and 30 minutes, you could fly for a full tank of gas. But can you guys do the same, or do you remember your minimums?
So yeah, it's changed a couple times. They call it the fighter management and crew rest cycles.
Yep.
I think for this one, it was 7 hours pretty sure it was 7 hours is what they limit us to. But also with fires, you're not allowed to continue fighting them as soon as it gets dark. That's like that's a wildland fire thing. We have no control over it, even though like we could potentially go out there, throw some goggles on and keep going. But just based off those rules, we can only fight fires during the day. So it's basically wake up, get out to the aircraft, check your bucket, make sure everything's good to go, fly out there, talk to your air attack, your fire command team, figure out where they want you for the day, get out there, and it's basically take breaks while you're refueling, and then when they call it a day, you just tell them how many buckets you dropped.
Holy cow, man. All right, so your position in the aircraft, like you personally, you're in the back. Are you there as a medic or a hoist operator, or what are you in the back for?
So I'm kind of unique. I'm all of them. So
nice. Good for you.
Yeah. different states have kind of different roles in how they play. Some of them are very strict, like medics are just there for medical stuff. Hoist operators, your medics aren't going to run the hoist, or your crew chiefs are really the guys that are going to be running the buckets and stuff like that. But I was just with how much passion and love I had for it. Like I was just kind of waiting until they told me to stop. Like, okay, you've done it.
Good for
So
you.
anything I could get my hands on, yeah. So I was out there actually dropping buckets. Compared to like a lot of the civilian platforms, they usually just for weight considerations, they usually just have the pilots with like a mirror system or a big bubble. They'll be managing their own drops. But with the Blackhawks, we have enough power, even kind of in the higher altitudes in Utah, to where we utilize the crew to where we always have at least one person in the back, and even on most of these fires we try to have two. So
Wow.
up front one of the two pilots is kind of swapping out so they don't get burned out all day dropping buckets, and then the same in the back, because we're actually helping the pilots time the drops, time if we're doing swings or if we're trying to do kind of trickier drops or spot drops, or try to get the water in different places. We're doing all that coordination with the pilots, so we'd like to swap out as well and take turns actually doing the drops.
Wow. Right on. Okay. I'm not a fire guy, so I can't relate too much to that side of it. I've never like I've been on the ground, I've had water dumped on me and like stuff like that.
Oh yeah,
But
we definitely try to
like,
avoid that. It's a lot of water.
yeah. Yeah. You get smacked in the face, you know it. It's like getting punched.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, that didn't.
Oh yeah.
Good.
No, we always get that too, because we'd get requests from people. They're like, "Oh yeah, just if you could just cover this area, we'd really appreciate it, just to cool it down." I'm like, I don't think you understand. That bucket holds 660 gallons of water. It's going to crush your back. It's not going to be comforting at all.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, not even a little bit. Oh,
Not
that's
even a little.
funny.
So,
Dang, man. Is there anything out of those fires and those fights that stand out to you?
honestly, it was crazy because we got into some bigger fires later, but for me, because a lot of the concern as an aircrew member, and you know a lot about this, is visibility. Visibility is always a big deal, and you're thinking about cloud cover, you're thinking about mist or fog and stuff like that, but you don't really consider how much of smoke can become a limiting factor to your visibility. Like these different areas, just with how much is burning, like your
Yeah.
visibility is now a serious consideration just off of smoke, and
Wow.
also just the area around it, just trying to get in and out of the fire and get cleared in to start dropping buckets. You might have to have a different game plan just based off the smoke and getting some decent visibility to get in there.
Dang. Yeah, it's not my world. I would love to learn more about it, but dude, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
It's
That's
definitely
crazy.
extremely satisfying, especially if you've got like people's houses and stuff nearby, and you're working on trying to, because the Blackhawks aren't the main players in the game. If you get like a DC-10 in there, or some of these bigger planes that are just dropping all that retardant, those
Yeah.
are the guys that are actually doing the most damage to this fire. The reason why we get used is because with the Blackhawk and the like a belly bucket, is we can get in and out so fast and just drop so many buckets in a quick repetition. For like, let's say a fire's creeping up on someone's house, we can actually get pretty aggressive on trying to stop that approach and hopefully save that property, compared to just these long lines of retardant with these huge game plans that these air attack and fire people are kind of thinking of on how to properly contain the big picture of the fire. So we get kind of handed like, hey, these little areas, see how much damage you can do with your flight time, and we go to work trying to see how many buckets we can drop before we're done.
Wow, man. Ah, wild. Wow, that's cool. That's cool. And thank you for sharing that. That's good stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I don't know if I have any more questions about the fire side, because again, it's not really my world. I'm always curious about it though.
Yeah, and it's always interesting to talk to people from like the ground perspective versus like our perspective, or even talking to like the scoopers, because those guys are crazy. Those planes that just scoop water off the belly and then go out and dump water. Like everyone's got
Talking to
their
ones
own
that like they
perspective.
like land on the water, they open the tanks or something like that, fill up the tanks.
Oh no, they basically have a scoop underneath the belly of the plane, and so they don't stop. They continue to just skate across the water, basically scooping water as they fly at water level, and they scoop up the water, and then they go and drop it, and they do those for rounds and rounds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. We had
Dang.
2 scoopers on the Dollar Ridge fire. I think it's you've seen them before, like the fires that were happening in California. Later, you see them come in, and they've just got like this weird kind of bowl shape under the belly.
Yep.
That looks like just a huge intake for an engine that's not there.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that
yeah.
whole thing is designed just to skid the water, scoop as much water without crashing into the water from the resistance of scooping it up, and then go and drop it. We were working on. We were doing coordinated drops with those guys versus like the tankers that were dropping everything. And we'd have to get stacked in the flow of who was dropping where at what time. And so that way we wouldn't run into each other.
Dude, that's crazy. I want to learn more. There's so much, like, fire and rescue seem to go so well together. I need to explore this more.
Each other. And honestly, like, you end up having to do both at the same time. So if you've kind of got like that multi-platform to do them both, they work really well together.
Dang, that's cool. Yeah, and having you on board as the medic, hoist operator, and whatever else. Yes, please.
Hey, yeah, whatever they'll let me do. I'm there to play.
I might just call you, just come hang out with you. Just sit in the back. I'll be like your backup. I'll be like the backup.
Oh yeah, it's a blast.
Yeah. You need help with hoisting? I got it. You need help with an IV? I got it. You need help with spotter? I got it. I'm right there next to you.
Just jump right into it.
Oh, look, that's funny. Dude, thank you, man. I appreciate you touched on some of that. So let's go to the next one. We're going to divert real quick to thank our sponsors.
Whether your mission is saving lives or servicing high-value assets, Onboard Systems Hoist stays ready to assist. Features such as single point payout reduce the potential for hoist-induced load swings, enhancing overall safety. For more information, go to hoist-winch.onboardsystems.com.
Again, 2018. This happened like right after the fire.
It was the next month, yeah.
Like, oh, okay, yeah. Literally next month. Here's the article. Utah National Guard rescues climber from Maple Creek rock wall. Freedom, Utah. A climber dangled on a rock wall more than 500 feet from the ground after running out of rope while trying to rappel down a 600-foot rock face in Maple Canyon, September 15th. The Department of Public Safety and search and rescue teams requested support to pull the climber from the cliff. Chief Warrant Officer 4, Scott Upton, pilot, Chief Warrant Officer 2, Nick Creamer, co-pilot, Staff Sergeant Blue Hockley, Staff Sergeant Mike Martin, and Sergeant Joe Shelley, medic, all soldiers from the 2nd Battalion, 211th Aviation, flew in a Blackhawk fitted with a hoist to the area for an after-midnight rescue. Quote, the rescue mission was conducted late at night. The visibility was extremely low due to no ambient light, said Upton. This makes height and depth perception difficult, end quote. Once the crew arrived at Maple Canyon, they were able to see the climber hanging from the side of the cliff about halfway down the rock wall. Quote, I was informed that if we did not recover the individual from the side of the rock face, he could lose limbs, said Upton. Department of Public Safety and members of the rescue ground crew let us know where the male was, what the terrain looked like, and that there was an additional female we needed to hoist off the top of the ridge. Chief Warrant Officer 2, Creamer, hovered the aircraft on the side of the mountain, said Upton. We ensured the rotor wash would not blow the male draping over the side of the cliff off his rope. Once in position, Hockley, assisted by Shelley, lowered Martin down on the hoist. The aircraft, which was above the top of the cliff, hovered in place with the climber more than 100 feet below the aircraft. Martin was able to retrieve the male off his rope. Then Hockley hoisted Martin and the male climber up to the aircraft. Shelley retrieved both the climber and Martin into the aircraft and began triage on the climber while the rest of the crew set up for the next hoist. The female was located on the top of the ridge. She was between two rocks and tied with a tether. She was hoisted into the aircraft from more than 40 feet below the aircraft. Both climbers were flown down to the base camp and transferred to an ambulance. This crew was able to conduct a hoist greater than 100 feet with little to no reference and rescue two people off the side and top of the mountainside. The professionalism, skill, and training is the reason this crew was successful. We have flown on this type of environment in combat zones and trained for this mission here and abroad. Maple Canyon is located just 3 miles southwest of Fountain Green, Utah, by the small town of Freedom in Sanpete County. The canyon has an elevation of 6,700 feet and is rated one of the top locations in the world for rock climbing. The rock walls are filled with thousands of embedded cobblestones, making every climb in this canyon very unique. The pictures in this are amazing, and I've got video footage from DPS, the Department of Public Service there, of you doing this rescue.
Yeah, it was crazy because we've had a couple. We don't get called out as often as some other states just because we have DPS, we have Lifeline, we have a lot of assets in Utah. But usually when we do get called out, it's kind of that middle of the night, like, hey, how fast can we actually get out there and react sort of thing. And when we initially got the call for this one, the story we got was just complete, like, what are we getting ourselves into? Because we were told that there was a rock climber stuck in like webbing or netting on the side of a cliff. And so we thought, like, what are we going to do with this? Because we were trying to game plan it before we even got out there. Flew out there, landed, talked to Incident Command before even doing the rescue. And they're like, oh no, he's stuck on his harness, dangling 500 feet above the ground, above this 600-foot extent. And we talked to Sanpete County as well. There was a lot of inexperience that kind of involved this rescue and how they got themselves into the situation. But they had been frustrated because there were like websites that were reporting this. Like you Google, hey, I want to do rock climbing. And it would show Maple Canyon, this specific rock spot, as a 100-foot descent. And it was a typo. It was a typo in the paperwork. So I think this young gentleman and his date went out there, and unfortunately it started getting dark as they were beginning to actually do the descent down. I think they thought this was a 100-foot descent compared to the 600-foot descent that it was. And unfortunately, he didn't actually see his rope touch the ground. He didn't look down to visually confirm it and thought that he was good. And so he was very fortunate as he was descending down on his rope. He stopped with maybe 5 feet of rope left and then tied it off, realizing that he was stuck there with no way to ascend. He didn't have any extra rope for like a prusik or anything like that. So he was just stuck there.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Very, very unlucky, but lucky at the same time, because most people in that situation, that's not how that would have ended. And when we got the call, they were starting to worry about circulation, just with how long he'd been suspended in the air in the harness, and just how difficult it was for the search and rescue guys to actually get up there to begin thinking how they were going to try to pull him up 100 feet off the cliffside. So,
oh my gosh.
So the technical side of it was pretty extreme because we had to kind of think like we have to basically deploy our hoist down without hitting him too much with the rotor effect from the aircraft, but also we need to be able to have me on the end of the hook kind of match up to him, grab him, secure him, then cut his rope, and then get out of there.
That's epic. Yeah.
Oh, and I was super fortunate just to have an awesome crew with me. Like everyone had been practicing hoist. Like we were really just kind of the top of our game at the time, like constantly doing flights and training for hoist scenarios. And so when this came up, everything worked really smoothly. We got with Shelly in the aircraft as well. We had extra set of eyes to kind of help so that as we were creeping up to this rock face, we're not getting too close, but at the same time, not getting too close to the victim on the end of the rope, and then cabling me down. I was using a radio and hand and arm signals at the time. Very proud of myself. But as I start getting cabled down, I kind of flip my goggles up and I kind of ask him how it's hanging. And he just like, I had to scream it with the aircraft noise. I was like, how's it hanging? He's like, oh, shit.
That is a fantastic joke at that moment in time. I got you.
I was so proud of myself. I was like, it doesn't matter about anything else to do with this rescue. Just that one line of delivery.
Yeah.
It was all worth it.
Mic drop. I'm out. I'll be here all night.
Yeah. But
He's like,
so
really? Are you serious right now? Are you serious, Clark?
it was he didn't like laugh. It was more of like an embarrassed like shrug. I'm glad you guys are here, but dang it.
Oh wow.
Yeah. But yeah, then we use the Army. We still use them. We don't use them as much nowadays, but we have these big metal apparatuses called a jungle penetrator or forest penetrator.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's got these metal stirrups that can fold out. And so I just had that hooked to me and the hook at the same time, pulled out the stirrup while radioing the aircraft. I just had my hoist operator, Blue Hockley. I just had it kind of bring me lower than him, position that stirrup right between his legs. Then I had him actually cable me up to where I could see the slack coming off his climbing rope, got him secured to the device, then cut the rope. And then from there, as soon as I cut the rope, we started to fly away and cable up and transition back into the aircraft. And it looked really smooth in the video, but there was a lot of technical steps that had to be followed in that very specific order for it to work out the way it did.
Cord going. Yep. Hey. Yeah, he's obvious there now, isn't he? There he goes. Oh, I'll have to watch the screen. I can't. There we go. Yep. Is that the other kid there right by your arrow? Or right by your cross? That's the hanger. Gotcha. Yep. So that's a little tricky not to get ropes tangled, isn't it? Yeah. Well, the thing of it is when they cut that rope, then they gotta make sure they keep it out of that rotor system. So. How much line do they have? How far can he lower? I think he's got 300 feet, maybe more on that. He's grabbing on the line. Gonna give him a down. Gives him a hold sign. Almost to him, isn't he? He is on him. Just a little bit below. Yeah. Looks like he's trying to do the harness. I don't know if I go in further. I don't think it'll be a very good picture if I try and zoom in any further. Yeah. I'm just trying to hold that camera right there. Are you a hoist guy? Do you work the hoist? Me? He's a rescue specialist. No. Hoist guys are pretty freaking awesome. I would say so. It's a good hover hutch. Okay, he's just coming around behind him. Using some kind of a diaper harness deal? No, theirs is like a jungle penetrator. I see. At least that's what he told me. Wind feels like it's blowing pretty good out there.
They're not bad. Seems to be not nearly as bad as they are up around the ridge line.
Yeah, can you take a less breezy way home?
Yeah, no kidding.
Was it rough? Yeah, they're just starting to come up. Looks like he's cutting the rope. Wishing he would have sharpened his knife. Rope is, look, oh, the rope just tangled around the line. Oh,
Seriously?
Free. Okay, the rope's free of the line.
Coming up. Nice
Coming
job.
up. That's a good one.
Will they load or will they just lower him on the road?
I think they'll bring him up and in.
Uh-huh.
That
Nicely
rope,
done.
that's a great rescue there.
Yep.
Man, well done. Well done. Dang,
Yeah.
dude. Was there any consideration, or did you guys, I don't even know if the Army does this. I mean, my first thought is he's already in a harness, he's already on a climate. I would just throw him on like another tether and just connect him and go.
We thought about that a little bit, but also he's just in like a standard harness around his legs. And so
Yep.
if he flips and goes feet up at all, he's done. So at least in
Gotcha.
our device, I know the entire torso is covered, so that way he's not sliding out anywhere. So
Right on.
the Army is
Okay.
very apprehensive against like the climbing harnesses for hoisting, just for that simple reason. If their head goes down and their feet goes up, they could just slide right out of it.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Right on. Right on. Hey, good
Which
to know. I
it's-
gotta ask. I
No, and it's
oh,
funny because that kind of leads into the second half of that rescue, because then we had to pick up his date that was still at the top of the hill.
which is so funny to me.
I still wonder to this day if they're married and that's like a
I
funny
don't-
story that they tell the kids. At least in the back of my mind, I hope that's how it went down instead
Right.
of the I'm never dating this guy again sort of thing.
He's an idiot. Oh,
But I like
No,
to think
he's
they're just
not.
happily
No, he's
married
not.
with kids. Yeah.
that's what I
That's
think
what
too.
I-
That's
what I
what a
hope
positive
for.
spin on. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, because she had her harness on and she had clipped into an anchor point on and it wasn't like a level surface. It was very aggressive. So that was actually technically harder for me because as they cabled me down, it was just slick rock. I hadn't invested in new Army boots yet, so my boots were in terrible condition. So I was just I was basically on all fours trying not to fall as I transitioned up to her to get her put in the device. And she did not want to disconnect from her anchor point in the rock. I remember having to talk her through it. I was a little aggressive at first because I pulled out like trauma shears because I was just going to cut her tether point so then I could get her on our device and get going. And she was
Yeah.
like pulling her tether away from me and away from my trauma shears. And I finally had to like convince her like, look, disconnect from the rock face and then I'll put you on the hoist hook and then we'll go. And we were able to slowly get through that. But yeah, that was, to me, that was more technically difficult than just the guy suspended off the 100 feet of rope. Because I had to do a lot more convincing to get her on the hoist.
Wow, man, what a trip. Dude, that's so
Yeah.
fun. Well, good job, dude. You and the whole crew. That's amazing.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's definitely a good ending to the story. Luckily, just with all the things that could have gone wrong, everything worked out well. And like I said, in the back of my mind, they're happily married with kids telling the story.
In my mind, they are as well. Yeah. That was that, you live this traumatic experience together and it just brings you closer together. That's what happened.
Oh, that's like
That's
the
why they
best
got married.
first date story. Yeah,
Oh,
no one
totally.
else is going to have that first date story ever.
Yeah, ever. No,
No.
that's exactly why they're married with kids.
Mhm.
Between you and I, anyway.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. Well, thanks, man. I again, well done to you and the crew. I love the footage that you have of it. You guys going down.
Yeah.
I'm psyched that DPS got that for you guys. So
Yeah.
super fun.
No, those guys are
I-
awesome. They hooked us up.
Yeah, it's like when you get stuff like that, it's so cool to like reflect back, like, oh yeah, wow, that did look totally gnarly. That was kind of crazy, and I'd do it again tomorrow. So
yeah, it's like that completely different perspective, because when you're like living through it, you're going from step A, B, C, and D. You're not like thinking of how cool you look, but it's always nice on the back end. At least you shouldn't be worried too much about it. It's always in the back of your mind.
Yeah, don't screw this up.
Yeah, don't screw this up. Make sure you look cool. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the guys I used to work with used to say, if you're gonna do it, just look good doing it. That's it. You gotta look cool.
Yeah, if you gotta look cool.
You look,
yeah.
I've
heard that motto before. Rule number 1: always gotta look cool.
So he used to say that too. All right, so I don't know. He must have gotten it from you. That's what I'm gonna say. He got it from you. My rule number 1 is like, don't be effing lazy. Like, that's my rule number 1. Because then from there, it trickles down. Because you can always look good, but don't be lazy and you look good.
Yeah, it just helps kind of support that. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah, so that's why I started that with number 1.
Yeah, put in that effort. Most everything else works out. Anyways.
Yeah, exactly. All right, man, I'm going to bring us to another one. We're going to divert real quick to thank our sponsors.
Blue Drop Training and Simulation. Blue Drop Training and Simulation for equipping your team with essential training solutions, including highly interactive courseware and advanced VR/MR simulation training tools. Explore more of Blue Drop's training solutions at bluedropts.com.
2020, you guys were put in another news article called DVIDS, Defense Visual Information Distribution Service. Okay. But you guys are talked about right here, and this is what the article says. Utah National Guard's Blackhawks helped fight California fires. Soldiers from 2nd Support Aviation Battalion, 211th Regiment, load gear and check maintenance before leaving the Army Aviation Support Facility in West Jordan, Utah. 9 soldiers with 2 H-60L Blackhawk helicopters plan to assist with battling the massive blazes and help reduce the destruction of the deadly California fires. And this is August 27th, 2020. Man, now you're getting called to another state to help fight fires? Are you kidding? Dang, man, that's awesome.
California is kind of like the Wild West when it comes to fires. Like, nobody's got bigger fires going on than them, at least in the United States.
That is a true statement. Yeah.
So that was one of those crazy years where they had a lot of their National Guard assets were deployed. And so they actually started pushing out EMAC requests to a bunch of other states. And Utah was one of those states that signed the bill saying, yep, we'll come out and help out. And we were working side by side with CAL FIRE and some of the California National Guard guys as well. And just trying to make a dent in the huge fires that they had going on out there. I mean, we're talking 200 foot plus timber with just blazing fires on top of it. And just like before, the tankers, all the bigger guys, like, they're the ones that are making the big dent, but they'll give us these areas where they're like, hey, just get in there. We've got these different areas that you can actually dip water from and just see how much damage you can get done in a day.
Wow. What a trip, man. Do you remember how long you went out there for?
So I was out there for a week and a half because since CAL FIRE and California National Guard already have a pretty good relationship. They do training all the time. When another state comes in, they kind of do like a check the block with you. So they'll want to see your training program, see how you drop fires, see if it's crazy different compared to what they're used to. And once they bless you off, those are usually like the first 2 to 3 days. And then as soon as they bless you off, they'll assign you a fire. So the Big Creek fire was going on at the same time that the Redding Complex fire was going on. So while I was there, we got pushed up north and we'd go stage out of Redding. And then as soon as they'd give us the green light, we'd actually leave from Redding Airport and just head towards the shoreline. And they'd have different assigned sectors. And we'd be dropping buckets till we're out of fuel, come back, refuel, get it back out there, basically until you were done with your duty day.
Dang, man. Rolling hard. Well, it's interesting because there's another article in 2020, again out of the Minuteman, and it literally says record number of wildfires ignite in Utah in 2020. While Utah's 2020 fire season may not have been as intense compared to the infernos that have burned through California, Oregon, and Washington, the state still had more than its fair share of scorchers. And that's just the first sentence. Now, here's what's interesting about that is because the governor had mentioned it back in 2018 that was like the highest on record at that point in time. And now we're in 2020 and you're hitting another record of fires. It says actually later in the article, as of October 29th, Utah has seen 1,478 fires. That's crazy.
It was crazy. I'd still say that 2018 was still the busiest year we had. But
okay.
Yeah, I mean, I even kind of forgot, like, we were on some Utah fires before we pushed out to California. And there was a couple kind of along the Wasatch Ridge that we were working and like Heber and stuff like that. So I've been on a lot of fires.
Dang, man. That's wild to me. I love the fact that you guys were out there doing that. Were there any rescue anything, or is it just you're just battling fires, fighting fires?
For us, it was just fires. There were some awesome rescues that were happening down at the southern part, up north with Redding. That one was mostly, they had pretty well assigned scan sectors because they'll create a complex fire and they basically assign letter acronyms to it. So like you're in section Alpha Bravo today, and that's just kind of one portion of the fire that you're working. And so Cal Fire, I mean, with as many fires as they've had and continue to have, they have a really fine-tuned system. Like you show up, they know exactly how to utilize you. It's not a lot of back and forth trying to figure out what to do. Like when Utah showed up ready to help, Cal Fire knew exactly how and when to push them out and get the most out of our time. It was awesome.
Wow, that's cool. Man,
because that's the main difference. Mostly with like Dollar Ridge is different, but for a lot of the Utah fires, we were kind of it, and so we'd kind of show up, and as long as we weren't messing up, we knew how to drop buckets in the right way to actually take care of fires. There's been a bunch of fires in Utah where we were really the only ones out there, and we're just making a day out of it, seeing how much damage we can do on that fire throughout the day.
Yeah, it just blows my mind. I you know what? I'll tell you what, I want to dive into that deeper. We don't have to do it right now, but I would like to talk more firefighting aspect of it. Again, I don't know enough about it. And I know we have a whole bunch more rescue stories to talk about. So I think you and I need to plan something again to like dive into some of the fire stuff and how to fly it and what to expect and different things you guys go into. So
no, absolutely.
I think that, like, we will do our own fire episode. Ooh,
oh man, you could spend a lot of time just talking fires.
Okay, that might need to do that. You know what? Maybe go off. You know what? Nah, screw it. I'm gonna do it right now. Let's go off on a tangent right now. What stands out to you about fighting fires? Like any of those fires?
So any of those fires, because the firefighters on the ground, or even when you're working like with Cal Fire and you have like a fire manager with you, they'll give you they'll teach you about like the nature of the fire, how the fire is going to spread with wind and stuff like that. But also at the same time, there's a whole other level of unpredictability to it. I've worked fires where like, hey, we're just going to soak this one area with water. We know we're not going to have to worry about it tomorrow. And then when we get back the next day, it's all just black and scarred from fire. And we're just like, what the hell? And the wind shift, like all these other factors come into play with like temperature shifts throughout the day. Like there's a whole science going into how these fires spread and how quickly they can get out of control. And so a lot of it from our perspective is we coordinate with those people that know what the fire's doing and they know where to put us. But at the same time, the reason why I think we're really so successful is they'll give us an area, and then with us, it's just a mad dash of how fast we can be scooping up more water, dropping it, and instantly turning back around and just doing that in vicious cycles to where we can just soak an area, whatever area they give us to work, we're just soaking that area with as much water as possible before we run out of fuel or run out of our duty time for the day.
Wow. You're not dropping water, or are you trying to drop water on the fire itself to try to put the flames down, or is it more like on the outskirts to try to prevent the burning to continue?
It depends on the strategies from like Air Attack and the other fire guys. The one rule of thumb that they always say is you don't drop in the black. As long as you're not dropping in the black, they don't care. And that's referring to already burned areas.
Well, yeah, because that's already done. Nobody cares
already
about
done,
that now.
You're just wasting water at that point. And so I've had fires where that's literally their kind of creed. They say, just don't drop in the black, do whatever you want. And they don't care if you're actually dropping on the fire or if you're trying to kind of build up the moisture in the area that they think is going to get hit next with the fire. And then you'll be on other fires where they're very particular, like, don't worry about the actual flames. We want you to soak this area like 100 feet west of this fire. This is the area we want just soaking wet for 2 hours from now. And so it's kind of having to work with those guys, figure out their strategy that they have for containment. Because at the end of the day, that's the name of the game. They're trying to build a containment percentage because they have to report that up to the state. The state's pushing that on the news. People don't care like how big. I mean, they do care how big the fire is, but at the end of the day, they want to know how the percentage wise how much is contained. That's the important number that everyone's working towards.
Got it. Interesting. Wow, that's cool. Yeah, it's good to know. Right on. Hey, thanks, Mike. I just learned something tonight. I'm pretty happy with that. Look at me.
Yeah,
look at this.
Trying.
This is good. That's good. This is good. I'm still
Never
leaning
stop
towards.
learning.
Yeah, no, do it. Never stop learning. Man, I've heard that. I'm thinking I want to learn more about fire, and we're gonna have to set something up with like a fire cast. Oh man.
You get like some CAL FIRE guys and like some of those like more experienced air attack guys, because the air attack guys probably have the hardest job out of the whole fire. They're usually in like a tiny little Cessna or something way above the fire, and they're having to not just assign like portions of the fire in like a horizontal perspective, but now with all the different air assets that they have coming in, they have to figure out perspective from the vertical perception as well. Like, my tankers are at this altitude, my helicopters are at this altitude, I'm at this altitude, and deconflicting all of that while getting them in and off fires. Those air attack guys are crazy.
That sounds like playing 3D chess.
It is 3D chess. They've actually called it that. It's 3D chess.
Oh, look. Yeah. Come on, man. Even a broken clock is right twice a day.
You got it. You've already got the flow. But just the amount of multitasking on some of these larger fires. And then it gets even crazier because on like the California fire, you'll have air attack sign different assets for different regions of the fire as well. So you'll have one major air attack that's running the fire. And for like the helicopters in this one section of the complex fire, they'll hand it off to, like, they'll call them Helco. And Helco's managing just all these helicopters in the region. So that way Helco is the one reporting back to air attack instead of like 20 other assets all trying to talk to air attack at the same time.
Wow. A lot of moving parts. No, it's just like, and I think about like recently with the California fires going down to Malibu and stuff and through Hollywood, and we're just like the amount of assets that were thrown at that were just incredible. Like, yeah.
And a lot of it's trying to figure out like on the back end, because even for me, I don't have like the full perspective, but just realizing how aggressive they're getting at certain stages of the fire and how much worse, even though the news is showing how much damage some of those fires are doing, but just how aggressive they were at during different stages of the fire actually helped those fires from getting even way worse than we could have possibly imagined.
Dang, man, what a trip. Yeah, I want to learn more.
Yeah.
You've opened up Pandora's box for me. I like it.
Oh yeah. No, it's a blast. Okay. I love fires.
All right.
I mean, I don't love that the fires are happening, but I love being able to help out on the fires.
I got it. Yeah. I got it. I love search and rescue. I don't want people to get hurt. I just want them to get hurt when I'm on duty.
But yeah, it's some people call it like customer shopping.
Exactly. Yeah.
If it's going to happen, I at least want to be there to help out. Yeah.
Exactly. Like that's what we sign up for. The good times.
Yeah, that's where the passion comes in. Yeah, definitely.
Man, I thank you for giving more of that. I'm really, like I said, I'm intrigued. I want to learn more. I want to hear more. So we'll have to do we'll have to do something with that.
And this is just a guy that's just been to California a couple times. Like those California National Guard guys or the CAL FIRE guys, that's what they do every year. I mean, I'm sure they could expand on that tenfold on how crazy all the different thought processes are going into that.
Well, the guy that I think about more often than not is, there's a couple. One of them is Tony Weber. Like Tony Weber is flying with San Diego Sheriff's Department. I have flown with him on different like fire classes and stuff like that. But that dude has knowledge, and he flies he flies fires almost every day. It's crazy. And then another guy is Monty Van Landingham. He was flying up with SAC Metro Fire, and some of his stories going in. I was like, holy cow, you guys go into some gnarly stuff. So it's always interesting to listen to the perspective of that. So I appreciate yours right now, because I haven't had that on this podcast yet until now. And it has sparked something in this. I'm going to throw that out there, Mike. Let's do this.
I like it.
We're starting something.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. I'm going to bring us back to a little search and rescue now.
Yeah.
So you guys were written in another article at DVids, and this is the headline here. Utah National Guards aids Utah County authorities in search and rescue efforts. West Jordan, Utah, United States. Soldiers from the 2nd 211th General Support Aviation Battalion, Utah National Guard, were dispatched in support of the Utah County Sheriff's Office search and rescue efforts to find a missing 65-year-old motorcyclist in and around Mapleton Canyon on May 9th, 2022. The 860 Blackhawk helicopter and crew members transported each search and rescue volunteers up Mapleton Canyon, where they were dropped off to begin their search efforts and later returned back to the incident command center. The Blackhawk crew also conducted search efforts from the air. Local search and rescue support demonstrates Utah National Guard's readiness and strengthens partnerships with local civilian agencies. You're searching for a 65-year-old motorcyclist in and around a canyon area? Yeah. Oh, maybe is that a town, or is that where?
That's a town. So that's a town with like a huge like cliff range to the edge of it, and so people go up and hiking and stuff like that into that portion, and that extends to another major. I believe that's just wildland fire, or no, not fire, but wildland area.
Got it. Okay. All right. So you how and why did you guys get called out? There's already a search and rescue team there, right? Searching for him.
Yeah. So again, we kind of get randomly called at. There's tons of other resources in Utah. DPS was actually already on this search, and we got the request mostly to help with the search, but also to help get a bunch of search and rescue folk up on top of those hills, so that way they could start looking as well. And so I remember for that one, because I had set up like kind of a medical setup in the back of the aircraft, and I had to throw a bunch of seats in there. We infilled all the search and rescue teams. Then I had to tear down all the seats, reset up like my medical configuration. And then on the back end, tear down my medical configuration, put all the seats back in, and then start loading in all the search and rescue guys for the exfil. So.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So you got your, or the government got their money's worth out of you that day.
Yeah. Oh, they definitely did. I had another crew chief with me on that rescue. Unfortunately for this one, it did end up in a recovery and not a rescue, but the search and rescue folk were able to actually to find the deceased and get him back to his family. And
that's awesome.
It had been a lot of snow. We'd actually been out in the area. It was interesting because while we were flying out there, we saw, because we'll see wildlife, but we saw a bear. We were kind of watching this bear gravitating towards one specific hillside and keep walking over there. And that's where we started to kind of focus our search to figure out, okay, maybe there's a reason why, even with a helicopter overhead scaring him a little bit, he keeps trying to go back over to that hillside.
Oh, wow. Did they end up finding him over there?
Yeah, they found him. And we flew
Was
over
it in that area where you saw the bear?
It was on the other side of the hill where the bear kept trying to get over there, because we'd fly by and he'd kind of get scared and scattered, but then he'd start heading back that direction again. And so that's what kind of keyed it in. And we flew over the deceased multiple times. It was there was a fresh layer of snow, and so we couldn't see him from the air. But the search and rescue team on the ground, as they came up on it, they found the deceased rather quickly, and then they called it into us. But yeah, that was one where with the fresh snow and everything, and kind of the last known location, and trying to figure where he would have gone from there. The more eyes, the better. Just as many people out there trying to figure it out.
Did you guys end up hoisting him out?
We actually do not do a lot of recoveries. When it turns into, so for Utah National or any National Guard, we actually have like a request process where we can get utilized for life, limb, or eyesight, because then it's like, hey, we don't care about the funding portion of it. They actually give us like a mission number, and once we have that mission number, we're good to help out the state. It all works through FEMA and through Air Force RRCs, if you're familiar with those. The RRCs are what you actually activate, like the Coast Guard and stuff like that. So they do the same thing for National Guard stateside. So,
cool. Very cool.
When it turns into a situation that's not life, limb, or eyesight, like a recovery, we can have conversations about it, but at the same time, we weren't really needed to help that recovery. So DPS ended up doing that one.
Oh, okay. Got it. You know, it's one of the things that I really like about Utah is it reminds me similar to Arizona, where the Arizona DPS were working a lot with the border protection guys. So border patrol, you know, you guys have the same thing where you're working with DPS Utah, like hand in hand quite a bit. It's cool.
Yeah. No, and we've been very fortunate to have such a great relationship with them. They kind of revamped their hoist program a couple of years back, and we just kind of followed suit with them and revamping our hoist program. So that way we're
nice. When
we're on a rescue together, or if they end up calling us and they need us, like they're familiar with what we can do, we're familiar with what they can do, and we can just help each other out ultimately to help out whoever's in need, sort of thing.
You know, I really like that. And I like that from multiple aspects of one, just hand signals. If everybody's speaking the same language in a hand signal, it makes life so easy. Like all of a sudden you're like, oh, this is what he's trying to tell me. Hey, I need a basket. I need this. This is ready for pickup. This is level off. This is whatever. Like, hey, come up on radios. Give a radio hand signal. Whatever. Like, there's so many aspects
just
of
being
that.
on the same page, because everyone's got like their own unique hand signals. Yeah,
absolutely.
That turns into a whole new level of difficulty of sign language. Yeah.
Yeah, but as long as it's brief and you and I both know what that means, hey, it's good to go. We're good.
Hey, it works. Yeah, absolutely.
Dude, I mean, you got to be like me, where you make up the signals like on the fly, and you're like, charades. You're doing a little dance, a little shuffle. What is he actually saying? Oh, I got it.
Improvising is definitely a real skill when it comes to that, because you'll never be able to think of all the different hand and arm signals that you need for something. There'll always be something new that pops up.
It always reminds me of the movie Team America, where what's the secret hand signal? Oh, he's waving his arms.
It's me. Doing? Yeah.
Is he waving to us?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. No, but it kind of circle back to that. I like that. I like the fact that you guys have trained together, so you know what each other does and the capabilities of each other. I think that's amazing.
No, I'd say like most states, there's some that have really great, really busy programs with their National Guard. There's some that they're really not involved at all. Most of the people, like when they're joining like a National Guard aviation unit, there's usually, especially on the MEDEVAC side, there's usually that passion to like help people. And if you're not in a combat zone, there's still that same passion to help out your fellow citizens for your state, and just being able to help in whatever way you can, whether it's a huge search and rescue scenario or a natural disaster, just the ability to kind of facilitate and integrate with those resources that you already work with in the state for other reasons. The more you're on the same page, the better everyone actually functions when it comes to a bigger disaster.
Yeah. I totally agree. You know, like Texas actually does a lot of that with, and like I'm shouting out everybody right now, Arizona, Texas. So Texas does that. They do a SARX, like a huge SAR exercise where they bring in multiple agencies into one major event, and they do it once a year. It's incredible. Like Texas DPS, you've got county helicopters, you've had the U.S. Coast Guard there. They get the National Guard in, they get Army units, Air Force units. It's very impressive that the amount of helicopters and resources they throw at this exercise.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
And all in the same team, all for the same goals. Yeah. I've actually talked to a lot of people. I haven't had a chance to actually go to the SARX in Texas. I've talked to a bunch of people from like the debriefings and stuff like that. And that's definitely something in my future. Even if I'm not involved in it, I just want to see it all unfold and just experience it.
I would love to get down there and see it as well. I would love to sit in on a debrief, actually. Even more so, I'd love to record the debrief. I'm going to throw that out there, Texas. Sorry, Mike, I'm taking it away from you for a minute.
No, you're good. I want to see that.
Yeah, because again, I like the way people and agencies work together like that based on the area that they're in. I think it's super smart. So, personal opinion. But anyway, okay.
No, I'm right there with you. Absolutely.
Yep. All right, I'm going to go to one more. I think this might be our last one we're going to talk about, which is cool. We're going to divert real quick to thank our sponsors. Ready Bar, originally made for astronauts, now designed for first responders and built for you. This high-performance meal bar provides complete nutrition without the sugar crash. A must-have for any helmet bag, swimmer bag, or everyday pack. Get yours today at getreadybar.com and use the promo code RESQ10 for 10% off. Ready Bar, zero crash, all fuel. 2023, and you were in a this was actually on online, but it was 2KU TV,
the local news. Mm-hmm.
That's, which is so fun for me. I love local news stuff because they highlight a little bit of it and then they just let it go. They do this little like, oh, let's touch on this, but they don't go into any detail, so it's kind of fun for me. But anyway, so here's what the headline says. Utah National Guard rescues 4 lost hikers in Wasatch County, West Jordan, Utah. The Utah National Guard, along with the Utah Department of Public Safety, successfully rescued 4 lost hikers on the Strawberry River drainage area of Wasatch County. According to Wasatch County Search and Rescue, they received reports of 4 overdue hikers, a 50-year-old man, and 3 children aged 7, 10, and 14, shortly after 4 p.m. on Wednesday. Officials said that due to the weather turning severe with a lot of rain in the forecast, the Utah Department of Public Safety and Utah National Guard were called for helicopter support. The group was located around 9:30 on Wednesday by one of the choppers and hoisted to safety. All missing parties were cold and wet, but in good condition, Wasatch County SAR crews said in the news release. Bro, that's awesome. And the video that you have is amazing because, again, Utah DPS hooks you up and videotapes the whole rescue for you guys. What?
Yeah, those guys are awesome. That was a crazy rescue just because earlier in the day, because we were all at work at the facility, and it doesn't happen very often in Utah, but when you're in those storms and the rain is no longer just coming from top down, but it's literally sideways, just with the amount of rain and that wind. It doesn't happen very often in Utah, but that was happening earlier in the day before we got the call. And with that was in more of our local training area. So the interesting part with that rescue is we already had an Apache doing training in that area when we got the call. So this is probably the first time I've ever heard of it where we had an attack Apache helicopter helping with the search portion while we were going to help with the search portion, but then also facilitate the rescue on the back end. And it was crazy because they found him in like 20 minutes. They were fast with it. They're very good at what they do. They took the Apache in, and 20 minutes in, they called us in. They called in DPS. DPS didn't have a hoist on that airframe at that time. And with the location that they found him in, then they handed it off to us to hoist him out of that spot.
Nice, man. And that in particular rescue, you were the hoist operator on it?
I was the hoist operator for that one. So it was crazy because we had normal training flights going on that night. And so when we got the call, the Apache was already out there. We shuffled some crew around because we actually had a flight doc with us, or he was on another flight just doing a training flight. I was like, I want that flight doc. And so we snagged a flight doc, threw him in the back of the aircraft. I ran the hoist, and then actually one of my senior pilots, he was going to be in the back doing a check ride for the other two pilots, and he ended up being my rescue technician. He rode the hoist and actually was putting all the patients in the basket as I plucked him off the hill.
That's epic. Dude, I love it. Nice job, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, again, everything worked out well. We kind of had a game plan. It was a lot of game planning right at the beginning. It was funny because with my senior pilot, Chris, he was doing a check ride on my commander, Lacey, and his thing that he always does is for a check ride, it's like, oh, we've got a MEDEVAC, we've got to go respond. And he does like a scenario-based training event. And so from talking to my commander, she was convinced until like we were taking off. Actually, I think past taking off that this was just a really elaborate scenario that he had set up for her. And it wasn't probably till we actually started loading patients in the aircraft. It's like, oh no, this is real. This was not a scenario.
Oh, that's fantastic. Now, you know what? If you can pull that off multiple times, you're doing all right. So take advantage of that one. That's funny.
Yeah.
Oh, man. You know, I'll tell you, Mike, you've ran us through a lot of stories today. I really appreciate it. And all I can say is that if I get injured, I want to be around you. That's it. Okay. Because it seems like the majority of your calls turn out really well. And that's mad props, man. Good job.
No,
I know we see some crazy stuff, but yeah, dude, from your first one to that one, like, well done.
Yeah, no, I definitely appreciate it. And I know I've been very fortunate to have such a great experience in the past with just varying degrees of difficulty or different challenges. And luckily being able to say on the back end that I learned a lot. I have a lot that I can grow from each rescue, but at the same time, each rescue has been very successful.
Yeah. And I appreciate you coming on to share them too.
Absolutely.
It fuels the fire for those of us that wanted to help. Like that's what everybody like. No, I'm not going to say with everybody. I'm going to say what I like and what I want. That I want to go save somebody. I want to get somebody out of harm's way, and I want to like high five. Good job. We did our job, and everybody gets to go home happy. That's my goal every time I go out the door. So
no, and I absolutely appreciate that because Utah National Guard's not a very busy state when it comes to their SAR program. We have a lot of other assets, and there's other states that are super busy. And with me, it's not so much that perspective because I've dealt with that in the past where people get kind of disheartened because they know other units, other states are a lot busier. But for me, yeah, it's just that one person, even if it's within like 1 year or like a 5-year time span, like if I was able to help that one person, to me, all that extra effort and passion, it was worth it. Absolutely.
Heck yeah, man. That's cool. Well, like I said, I appreciate you sharing all these stories with me and everything that you've been involved with. I'm really psyched that we got like off on a little tangent about the fires because that is something that I have a lot of interest in, but I don't know anything about. So I'd love to learn more. And I think this is like the opening of that to make that happen. So
I'll remember that later.
I think so. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
No, that's awesome.
So no, it's good. So we've covered like so much of this stuff, like articles and videos and stuff, which again, I'm super stoked on. Are there any other like hoists or rescues or anything that stand out to you?
So I've got a huge passion for hoist. It's not really a rescue story, but recently got married last year. I was very fortunate that both me and my wife now were in
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I was trying to go for like a unique story that no one else would have. And so she was actually getting ready to medically retire from the Army. Okay. I was like, well, I haven't hoisted you like ever. Like, this is kind of like my job. This is like the main thing I do. Let's get you on one last training flight where I'll hoist you. We picked like a beautiful area. She's like, fine. And she kept pushing it off. Like, I think she canceled like 3 times on me. And finally I got her on
Come on, girl.
finally I got her on a flight, got her out on the hoist, hoisted her down. And then when I brought her back up, I had my wedding ring to propose to her right at the cabin door. And
Is she
if she
hanging
said
outside the
no,
helicopter?
if she said no, I would just be able to cable her right back down and we'll go from there.
And that's the end of that relationship.
Yeah. But no, she said
she-
yes. So everything's
She said, sorry, she kept back in the aircraft. Oh, that's fantastic.
I was going for like one of those stories no one else would have. And yeah, it worked out well. She said yes, and we're happily married since.
Oh, dude, I'm so happy for you guys. That's fantastic. What a great story. Oh, I love it.
Yeah, thanks.
So I'll tell you what, man, we're going to wrap this up here in a minute. But my last question is going to be, if you had a piece of advice that you'd want to pass on to everybody else that's still doing the job, what would it be?
I mean, like if I was to just put it bluntly, it's just make sure you do the work. Like I like how you said don't be lazy, but I think people just focus on all the sexy stuff, but putting in all the extra effort for all the other things that you need to make your organization and all your teammates successful, you got to be able to do the work to help make them successful, because that's how you'll pay off with those successful rescues, helping save lives. And that's what makes it worth it in the long run, is all that work you're willing to put into it on the front end. Because if you don't put the work in on the front end, you're setting yourself up for failure. You may have successful rescues, but you're just making it harder for you and your teammates if you're not willing to put that work in.
Dude, I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. That's a great piece of advice. I appreciate it. Mike, thank you so much for coming on to share all your stories and everything that's going on with your career. It sounds just amazing. I really appreciate it. This has been a fun conversation for me.
No, it's been a pleasure. It's been a blast being on here.
Right on. Well, thank you. I'm glad you said yes. And actually, we're going to do one final shout out to you personally, because you actually just took a new job with Air Rescue Systems, ARS, as their VP of training. Well done, sir.
No,
well
exciting
done. Congratulations.
Times. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Heck yeah. Which I know I mentioned it a little bit in the beginning of the podcast, but we are going to meet up at Verticon. We're going to record live there, and you're going to give everybody in the industry an update on ARS expansion and what's happening now that you're taking over the training aspect of ARS.
Oh no, absolutely. Yeah, I don't want to ruin it, because I'm excited to meet up with you face to face. But yeah, it's just kind of going from one side of my passion and just transitioning it to a new position. And I'm super excited for what the future holds.
Yeah, dude, I'm excited as well, man. So I look forward to seeing you at Verticon, and hopefully while we're there, we can catch up and grab a beer together and make it happen.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd love that. We got the social event right after the user conference.
I'll see you there. For sure.
I believe you're going to be there.
I am absolutely going to be there. Are you kidding me? Why would I not be there? It's hanging out with all the boys, drinking beer, telling stories.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll be there too.
Oh, that's fantastic. Right on. Well, thanks, Mike. I will see you in like another couple weeks. Thanks, buddy.
Yep, sounds good.
Right on.
Right, take it easy.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are out of here.
Go.
Now it's time for me to pull chocks and take off. But before I go, I'm always looking for the memorable rescues that people have done. If you have one that you're willing to share, or know somebody who has a story, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to highlight it here at the Real Rescue. For everybody that is standing by for that SAR alarm, remember, those in distress are praying for a miracle. They are going to get you. So until next time, fly safe and swim hard. Thank you for joining me today here at the Real ResQ Podcast, powered by Vertical Helicast. We'd also like to say thank you to our sponsors for this episode.
Axnis. The Axnis PNG wireless ICS system delivers cutting-edge wireless ICS technology to any aircraft as a fully integrated system or as a carry-on, carry-off mobile base station. The PNG wireless system is the right solution for any mission.
Whether your mission is saving lives or servicing high-value assets, onboard systems, hoist, stays ready to assist. Features such as single point payout reduce the potential for hoist-induced load swings, enhancing overall safety. For more information, go to hoist-winch.onboardsystems.com.
Blue Drop Training and Simulation. Blue Drop Training and Simulation for equipping your team with essential training solutions, including highly interactive courseware and advanced VR/MR simulation training tools. Explore more of Blue Drop's training solutions at bluedropts.com.
And Ready Bar. Originally made for astronauts, now designed for first responders and built for you. This high-performance meal bar provides complete nutrition without the sugar crash. A must-have for any helmet bag, swimmer bag, or everyday pack. Get yours today at getreadybar.com and use the promo code RESQ10 for 10% off. Ready Bar. Zero crash. All fuel.
All right.
All right, Mike. I got. I gotta ask this. Like, what's the funniest thing you ever had happen in any of your training flights? Because I know the Army does some funny stuff.
Yeah. I wouldn't say it was training. I'd say that because this was actually on a rescue. This was kind of, yeah. Well, like how you've got a rescue. I think everyone's got like a story where everything was just like a little weird, but at the end everything worked out. But like there's like all these moments where like that was weird, that was weird, that was weird throughout the entire flight or the entire rescue. Because we got called out to a gentleman that had hiked up Deseret Mountain, and it wasn't winter, but it was still like snow on the top of the mountain, and he didn't bring any warm clothing whatsoever. And so we actually went into this rescue thinking it was going to be a hoist. Like we fully committed to it. We were game planning the hoist. And then when we get up there, he's right at the top. Like we just did a 2-wheel, landed, and loaded him up. We didn't have to do the hoist at all, which kind of throws you off your game. You already have like your game plan.
Yeah.
And so we came in like, oh, we can land here. And like, we're trying to use our hand and arm signals to keep him. But as soon as he saw like this aircraft with the wheels even getting close to the ground, like I could tell he'd been out there all night. He bum rushed that helicopter. So we kind of scooped him up, got him inside the aircraft. And my major concern for that patient was just hypothermia. So it's a little crude, but like we basically take a thermal angel. It's like those warm it's like hot hands, except it's a whole blanket that will just help warm up the patient. And we need to warm up their core. So we're usually taking off their pants, shoving it up their shirt. And so that way they get that core coverage to help warm them up, and then kind of shoving the pants back up. So that way they can maintain some body heat. As we're transitioning him back down to the bottom of the hill, he's warming up. Things are going well. He's looking a lot better. His vitals are looking a lot better. We land. We open the door to hand him off to the EMS on the ground, and I'm like doing my checks, making sure that like the monitor and all the cables and our comm cables, nothing's going to snag as we transition him out. And for some reason, because he was walking, he was a lot more lucid and with it, but he never pulled up his pants. He kind of squat walked all the way to the EMS while I was helping gather up the stuff and going over to talk to EMS for the patient handoff. He just kind of squat walked the whole way. And he had even taken the blanket and left it in the aircraft. I figured he was going to hold on to that, but he just squat walked the whole way to the back of the ambulance. And like I kind of look over and everyone's like what's going on there? And so I'm already flustered. I go over to do a handoff with the paramedic in the box truck and give him like vitals and stuff like that. And I'm a very firm believer in the Palm Pilot method, where like you just kind of write notes on your hand and stuff like that. Yep. So I keep taking my hand up like this to read his vitals to give to the paramedics. And I guess the gentleman working the box truck had never been around helicopters, or he was just super excited, because every time I do this to read what I'd written down on my hand, he'd be like, hell yeah. And he'd give me a fist bump. First time I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, man. Like, yeah, that's awesome. It's like, also. And so I'd lower my hands and he'd be like, yeah, give him a thumbs up. And I'd go back to read it, and he'd go back in for another one. And he did this like 3 times before I finally kind of like had to position my body away from him and say, okay, so this is his pulse and his blood pressure and his ox sats as of 10 minutes ago. And he's like, okay, yeah, he's writing it down too. But yeah, that dude got like 4 extra fist bumps in there.
Oh, that's funny.
And then walking back to the aircraft, because I'm super, like, I completely forgot about the pants down thing. And I clip back in, and one of the pilots is like, hey, Mike. And I'm like, yeah, what's up? We ready? Well, we got 2 questions. You ready to do some hoist? Because they want us to actually pull the search and rescue team out, because they were in a completely different area, and they were kind of also like sucked into a spot. So they asked if we could just hoist the search and rescue team out to get them out of there instead of avoiding the long hike back through. And also, why was that guy's pants down? I was like, I don't know. I'm still flustered over the other things. Like, let's do this. Let's just focus on the hoist. We can talk about this stuff later.
Oh, God.
We flew up, found
great.
the search and rescue guys, almost lost the search and rescue guys because they gave us a grid that did not match at all. And so we've started our second search for the day. Luckily that one only lasted like an extra 10 minutes or so. And then when we found them, we hoisted them all out, dropped them off at the bottom of the hill. And then when we flew back to base and debriefed it was just like, there's all these weird things that just added up. Everything went really well. Like we're all really happy with the rescue, but like just all these things that like between fist bumps and people not pulling up their pants, like,
oh man, dude, thank you.
Got a weird vibe.
Share that. That's funny. That's funny.
Yeah.